Welcome to Series 12, Restorative Practices Made Simple. Today's topic is Families as Partners, Restorative Practices. Today, we have two wonderful guests that have been working with families over the last 4 or 5 years as partners using the restorative practice model. My name is Dr. Gaye Lang. I'm with the Texas Education Agency. I'm the statewide restorative practices person in the state, and I train all the educators. And these two wonderful people have been in my training several times for different reasons, of course, but they've all been. So I would like them to introduce themselves, and I'll start with Ms. DeLeon first.
Hi, yes, my name is DeLeon. I'm one of the district social workers for Robstown ISD. I started in 2019 when our district was implementing restorative practices across the board with all campuses. So it's been something that we do often at work with our students and our parents, but it's doing it so often has really helped me learn how to take it home with my children. Being able to talk with parents about it, I'm like, I need to take my own advice. And so it's something that I use as often as I can.
Very good. Thank you so much, Ms. DeLeon. Ms. Hall.
Hi, my name is Nataline. I'm also a district social worker with Robstown ISD. And as Ms. DeLeon said, we've been using restorative practices for 4 years now. And anytime we can provide that to our families, we've just gotten excellent feedback on how it's allowing them to have a better relationship with their child. And so we've always just had very positive feedback from parents who've been involved.
Very good. Excellent, excellent. I want you to tell me the story, Ms. Hall, about the conference. We did a parent conference that was a statewide parent conference. You all actually participated in that conference. So that was the kickoff to the parent conferencing part where it was restorative practices, families as partners. Can you walk us through that conference a little bit and how did that get started afterwards in your district?
Absolutely. So we partnered really closely with our parent and family engagement coordinators for each campus. And so through that partnership, we made invitations for our families so they knew well in advance that this event was coming. We did have it virtually, so that meant there was some preparation involved in regards to creating kits that those enrolled in would pick up prior to the day of the conference. Those kits included information that we were going to review during our training, such as foundations of restorative practices, the three-legged stool. So all that information was given to the families that enrolled prior to. And then through our virtual conference, we went through every single document involved so they were well equipped with not only getting educated around it, but could ultimately use it that evening when they went home.
Wow, that is awesome. I remember that so vividly, and we had such a good time too. Ms. DeLeon, she mentioned the three-legged stool. Can you tell us what that is?
Of course, the three-legged stool really describes the foundations of restorative practices, which is the respect agreement, I statements, and experiencing the full circle. And those legs hold up the seat, which are the values that all the participants live by.
Yeah, and the value is the glue that kind of holds everything together, because if you don't have a value that everybody commonly understands what trust is or feel like they are safe, then it's very difficult to move forward in a circle. I really am appreciative of you explaining that to everyone. So, Ms. DeLeon, I know that Ms. Hall was there when we did that conference, but since that conference, you all have held many circles since then. So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing in the district with families as partners in restorative practices?
Of course, we utilize circles as often as we can. So we have become very comfortable using tier 3 circles, which is our COSAs, anytime a student is coming back to campus, and our parents and families are always invited to them. And it never fails how powerful those circles are. The parents seeing their students be vulnerable and the students being able to see their parent be vulnerable, see them in a different perspective. But we also use our tier 1 circles. Anytime we have an activity with our parent volunteers, whether it's before the activity, after the activity, we always try to implement a tier 1 circle, really connecting our families with each other and teaching them how to connect with their children.
Wow, that is awesome. Tier 1 is a community building circle for sure, but the COSA, which is a circle of support and accountability. Ms. Hall, tell us a little bit about the COSA.
Yeah, so we really love COSAs. We use them primarily when a student is returning to the district or their home campus. It's really structured in the sense that we're being future focused on what we can do to support the student, but also we get the student's voice. What do you need from us to make you successful.
And
And-
so how do those work? I mean, are they meaningful? Do they yield anything? Is it positive? Do you get any feedback from parents?
We do. I think it's really powerful because depending on the reason the child was not at their home campus or district, whether it was a hospitalization or a foster care placement and they're returning back home, it's really about being future focused. We're not going back in time. We're not, rehashing what decisions you could have made better. It's really about we're here now and we support you and this is what we need. And these are the team members that are going to help you be successful and the team members that are going to be held accountable in making you successful.
Yeah. And I think that COSA is so powerful because if the student doesn't have someone that when they go back to the campus that can help them walk through to keep them from making the same mistake again or falling through the cracks even, there's no one watching out for them, then they're going to have the possibility of going back to the same thing or having the same kinds of problems and go back to the DAP if it was a situation like that. So it's really good to have someone at the campus that welcomes them back. So that circle of support and accountability or reentry circle is that circle. So Ms. DeLeon, so how many circles do you think you all have done with parents over the last few years or in the last year or two?
In the last year, we've had at least 60 circles. It's a combination of tier 1s, tier 3s, but at least 60 that parents and families are involved in.
Wow, that's a lot, 60 circles. That is awesome with parents involved. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I love it. So what was the outcome? Did the parents enjoy? Can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Of course, every single circle, parents have left saying, I love this. Whether it was them crying about how, vulnerable it felt, how safe they felt. We've also had them say, now I know how to talk to my student. Now I know how to talk to my child. They leave saying, I know I can communicate better with them.
Yeah, I understand that. So Ms. Hall, what do you think that when they say they can communicate better, they mean that they can do what? What can you explain a little bit more? Do they tell you anything else that they do?
I think it's really just having a better understanding of what their child's voice is. I think most times we don't even know, what we assume we know what the child is feeling and thinking. But when you're in a circle, whether it be a family group conference or a COSA, we're getting the youth voice, we're getting the child's voice. And so then being able to share like I feel and this is why, and also really allowing them to take ownership of that, letting them speak for themselves. So we've had a lot of feedback on how wonderful it is to just have also that shared space, like especially when it comes to the respect agreement. This is our home and we all respect it. Yes, I'm your parent, but at the end of the day, we all have a joint effort in making this a safe space, a fun space, a space that we all feel we're comfortable in, but we're all acknowledging this as well, that this is a unified agreement on how we're all going to work together. So not necessarily me saying you have to because I'm parent, but it's like I respect you because you're my child and you're going to respect me and you're going to respect each other. And we'll respect our environment. Yes.
Yes. And that respect agreement is really something can be used across the board at home, at school, at work, with friends, with families, with principals, with teachers, because it says to you, I will respect you. I mean, I'm the person that's going to be accountable for doing the right thing here. And I'm going to sign this and say that this is my word. I plan to keep it. I plan to do right by you. I plan to be in this space and treat everyone equally. And that is so difficult in times, but that agreement really sets you up for success. It really does. And I really like the respect agreement. And like you said, Ms. DeLeon, you could take some of that home. And now I know both of you have young children, so practicing at home makes it even better. When you go home, it's like, oh, I know how to do this already. So that's really good. What about the iMessages? I know that iMessages are designed to de-escalate. So I know that you teach parents on how to speak to their children with iMessages, because I know language and communication is probably some of the problems that we have, not only in schools, but at home as well. Did you want to comment on any of that, Ms. DeLeon?
Of course. I think I statements is one of the most, I would say debatably the most important and probably the hardest component to really grasp or to really do consistently. I think it teaches, I know it teaches our families how our parents, not really how to talk at their child, but how to talk with their child. And I think sometimes as a parent, I know I can get caught up in speaking to the child, not with them. And I think I statements really help you take ownership of your own feelings, but communicate with your child like effectively, not in an authoritative, just do what I say, but this is what I'm feeling, this is what I need. And if we do that, that's the only way our children are going to learn.
Yeah, by modeling. If they see you do it, they'll stop doing it and start saying, well, mom says this, so I'm going to say this. And I think that modeling at home, modeling at school helps, but it is the most difficult thing to do because we don't speak like that. It is an intentional effort to speak, I feel when you, or I feel this because you. The I feel is the key part. I'm telling you emotionally where I am, and people, that's a de-escalator because it's hard to be mad because I'm telling you about how I feel. Very difficult. That's why I say it's the great de-escalator. I feel. Ms. Hall, did you want to add anything to that?
I just want to remind parents that, you know, just like parenting, it's not perfection. And so restorative practices is, yes, it does take time and skill to get comfortable with it. But once you do that, it's really not about perfection. It's about creating a nice, fun, safe space and an opportunity to really build that connection. And again, I mean, you can use that with your family, you know, because like you said, we don't always communicate, but it's not about perfection. It's about practicing, making it a habit, and just really utilizing a different format for communicating and building those connections.
Really good advice. It's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. And if we thought everything was perfect, you could scratch it out and start all over again because we're going to make a mistake. And just trying to keep up with it and doing it over and over until it becomes a habit. And then it becomes part of who you are. And then it's not as difficult. It's not a strain to do it even. It's like it comes naturally. If you had two things that you want to leave, before we get there though, let me just ask one other question. What is the percentage of people in terms of parent training, results of the parent training? What are the results? If you had to say we train 50 parents, 60 parents, 70 parents, we had 60 circles, and as a result of those 60 circles, discipline dropped by 10%, 12%. Do you have any idea about any numbers or any data that you could share with us?
Well, beyond the 60 circles we've done, I mean, we also, you know, think about the training opportunities we do with families. And so we try to incorporate any part of restorative practices into those opportunities. So if it's Mental Health Awareness Month, we're talking about mental health in the form of a circle. So, you know, it's hard to say an exact number, but we definitely have touched hundreds of children and parents in the form of a circle, whether it's saying, hey, today we're not doing the full circle, but we're going to just talk about the I statement, or let's revisit the respect agreement. And so I would say, you know, we've definitely have been able to touch at least 100 to 200 parents in that process on just knowing like what this is. And we always feel like we can talk about restorative, but once you experience restorative, you really understand where it's coming from. You really feel like you recognize how simple it is.
Do you all think that there's been a drop, Ms. DeLeon, in discipline referrals for those parents and students, the parents that get involved and stay engaged or been to the training or participated in the respect agreements or participated in the reentry circles or participated in family group conference or participated in community building circles, those students, do you think those students had fewer referrals? Did their discipline rates drop?
I think most of the parents that have participated in our circles with our activities are a lot of our volunteers, and I feel like those numbers definitely have improved. Even if a student has gotten a referral, but being able to communicate as a group better, the parent and child after a phone conference or after a discipline referral, I think that has gotten a lot better. Being able to, on the follow-up on what can we do after an incident occurred and how we can move forward. I know our parents have learned to communicate better and more than anything, like use that incident to build on their relationship.
Yeah, I see. What about you, Ms. Hall? Do you have any idea of the numbers or maybe percentages or a guesstimate of about how many kids? So if you had 200 parents you trained, 200 parents have been participating, they have children there, and maybe not all their children were the discipline concerns, but maybe some of them were. Do you have any idea about how many of them, do you have any decrease? Because I know they call you off, they have a problem. Have you had fewer calls from those students, parents, or the parents at all, or the students?
Yes, I definitely feel like there's a decrease in the discipline and behavior with the parents who are involved. I think that just allows the parents to be more involved in their care. And so sometimes we always find it's the parents who are in our trainings that it's not those youth that need it. And so I would say that definitely is a testament to being involved and knowing the model, is that those are usually not the students who we're getting referrals for, because the level of involvement and the awareness.
Yeah, and when you get involved and you start using restorative, those parents' children will not be the ones you see anymore. You're going to start seeing a different group of parents and students, and hopefully you can get them on board. Do you ever use any parents to maybe relate to other parents or tell their story to other parents? Because sometimes the storytelling of their experience helps other parents to want to get engaged or want to get involved. Anybody ever come up to you and say, I'd like to do this? I heard Miss So-and-so was in there. Any stories?
We did a training at a primary campus with a group of families who were new. And that campus liaison said, hey, after we did the virtual training, they wanted more, or they told their friends and they weren't able to join. So it was another opportunity for us to regroup, and it was in person this time. But yeah, I think that day you could already see a cohesion and a relatedness amongst those families. Like, oh my gosh, it'd been such a long time since I've been able to connect at this level. Like our parent involvement, they come and they help out on campus and they do lots of wonderful things, but creating a safe space for them to share about what's going on. And even if it wasn't a disciplinary, there's a lot going on in general that our parents have, on their plates. And so creating kind of like that support group where they felt like there are other parents on this campus who are in very similar situations, where otherwise we wouldn't be so inclined to share with each other. So
okay, good. And when you have the circles, do you all mention about the guidelines, Ms. DeLeon? I know that you all have circles and there's specific things you want to make sure happens in a circle and doesn't happen. You want to share a little bit about that?
Definitely. We make it a point, we have to go over our guidelines before any kind of circle. And this is really important because when you're in a circle, it really does create a safe place for our parents, which they don't get to experience often sometimes, like whether in their own home or with their families. And so when they're in a safe place, it's just, I feel like natural that they wanted to share. They want to share everything. And so we have to be very purposeful about saying these are our guidelines that we need to stick by. And letting them know if for some reason you do need to talk about something more personal, you can pull us aside after. We can talk one-on-one. This circle isn't a healing circle though, or a therapy session. The purpose is, and to restate whatever the purpose is, to connect with each other, to talk about the, restorative practices, to talk about something at the campus, and being able to redirect. Because like I said, it really is a safe place and the participants feel just safe talking about whatever they're going through. And you have to be able to redirect, say, remember, this is what we're talking about today, and redirecting, because if we're not talking about the purpose, like if we're not following the prompts of the circle, then it's no longer a circle. And sometimes you have to shut it down if that's the case.
No, I understand. Yeah, I think that parents understand that. And once you make it clear, if they veer off and you redirect, they get that, okay, I need to stay with this purpose of this circle at this time. And at least you offer them an out that later on you can come talk to me, where if they really have to have something or unload something or get help or support, you do offer an opportunity for them to come to you privately, which is very helpful. So if you had some takeaways or 2 things you could tell people to remember to do, or 2 things you want to say, well, if you had to do these are lessons learned, or if you do it, do this way. So what 1 or 2 things, takeaways, some nuggets you want to leave with the people that are viewing this? Anyone?
I would say just keep it simple. I love when I think about like the talking piece, like there's always simple ways to create or implement restorative practice in your home. So if you're not creating an entire respect agreement one day, we can still remind each other, like, this is our talking piece and this is what we're going to follow. And this is why we are using the talking piece. So just kind of creating, like, if you have to break it down so it makes it more manageable, So you are using it more naturally over time. Because like I said earlier, it's not about perfection. It's just becoming more comfortable with it. And the more we do that, even if it's small pieces at a time, then the easier it gets.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. Leon? Any takeaway, any nuggets, any lessons learned?
Of course, I would say one of the most important for me is just to be real or honest with your children, which is usually one of the values that you're living by. Our kids are probably one of the first to point out when we're not following the respect agreement or not following one of the guidelines. So being honest and letting them know, you know what, you're right. Like, parents make mistakes too, and then getting back on track, teaching them it's okay to make mistakes. Like Ms. Hall said, it's not about perfection. It's about building this relationship and growing together.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. You all have done a fantastic job. I'm so proud of Robstown. I really am. You all have done wonderful with the parents. It's just been great. It really has. And I have enjoyed working with you all. So anyway, I really am impressed and proud of both of you. And I want you to keep up the good work. And if I can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to call or just text me or email, anything like that. So this is series 12. The last in the series of Restorative Practices Made Simple, Families as Partners. But don't stop tuning in. You can always listen to us anytime. So there are 12 series. Listen to all 12. You can learn a lot about restorative practices from our panelists. Thank you so much.